A good Wednesday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. It was quite an active afternoon and evening yesterday. Very thankfully, we didn't have anything in the way of a severe thunderstorm warning, but we did have our fair share of flash flood warnings, whether it was here in Central Georgia or it was just outside of our viewing area. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of your 24-hour rainfall totals. And locally heavy amounts did definitely get up there in terms of some of the totals. 2.8 inches just north of Jackson in northern Butts County, taking it down to 3 inches in Upson County east of Thomaston. North of Butler, about 2.5 inches of rain. On that western side of Macon County, pretty close over to Schley County, you're seeing just shy of about 3 inches, 1.5 inches down in Cordele, just shy of 2 inches down in portions of Telfair County, 1.2 in Cochran, 2 inches around the Perry area, but most of Central Georgia probably found themselves somewhere with just a couple tenths of an inch of rain, not even recording an entire tenth of an inch of rain up here in the downtown Macon area, only 2/10 of an inch in Warner Robins, 1/10 of an inch down in Dublin, but farther up to the north and northeast and then down towards the south and the southeast, that's where some of the totals are more reminiscent of this kind of trail where some of the thunderstorms came down from north to south across Upson County, Taylor County, down into Macon County. How about this? On the Baldwin and Wilkinson County line, over 5 inches of rain just south of Milledgeville, just shy of 4 inches around Sandersville, and once again just north of Sandersville as well. Going all the way up here, so these are the two counties right outside of our viewing area, right outside of Washington and Hancock counties. Glasscock County right here, the small one, and then you see the Inton right here, that's Warrenton, Georgia, up in Warren County. The border of those two counties saw about 7.5 inches of rain, and there are some pixels that I did grab earlier during the morning show when I was talking about this. Some of those totals got above 8 inches right on that county line area, so that is a lot of rain to see for a couple of days, really a whole week, let alone just a couple of hours yesterday afternoon. Then once you take it down to the south and the southeast, down here in Vidalia, just over 4.5 inches of rain. So some of those heavier totals, once you get up to about 4 inches and even higher, it did result in our fair share of flash flood warnings up in counties north and northeast of us and down in our southeastern corner, including Montgomery County, Toombs County, up into Emmanuel County. When a lot of rain falls over a short period of time, that's what can happen. It can result in the ponding of low-lying areas that don't drain well near bodies of water and such. And of course, it can wash out some of those dirt road areas that are present in some of our more rural areas. So that was the name of the game yesterday, just very hit or miss showers and more so some storms. A lot of them got going a little bit earlier in the afternoon than we were thinking, and that's just kind of the really telltale that it's hot, it's humid, and of course maybe the models aren't resolving rain, but that's what can happen on a very hot and humid day, just like yesterday. A couple of scattered showers and a couple of scattered storms. They got going a little bit earlier, but they weren't a bad thing because they cooled some of those numbers down a little bit quicker, and also they did overwork the atmosphere. So by the time the bulk of the rain came in from the northeast and over from the east, a lot of that just weakened very steadily into more widespread showers and then eventually did dissipate as it made its way farther over to the west. So let's talk about some of the numbers. 98 was the high temperature up here in Macon yesterday. It's exactly what we had forecasted, upper 90s, and it does match the highest temperature that we've recorded in the year of 2025 so far. We hit 98 at the very end of June. That's 4 degrees above average this time of year. 102 was the record for yesterday. Back in 1977, we were only 4 degrees shy of it, so we were a lot closer to that record than we have been in the past couple of days. But notice the precipitation. We've been having some issues with our observation station at Middle Georgia Regional Airport during the overnight hours and into the early morning hours. We did record just over 1/10 of an inch of rain, I do believe. So it really didn't do much in terms of helping us out on the year departure of rain. We're still hovering about 1.75 of an inch over where we should be in the year of 2025 as a whole. That's what the year departure means. How do we compared to years of past? Where are we in terms of rainfall compared to all of those years of past since we started taking records back in the late 1800s? And we're still above schedule and ahead of schedule in terms of where we should be for that rainfall. But July itself has been a very, very dry month. Obviously, not going to show you the July month because I have been referring to it the last couple of days. It is exceptionally dry and only 1/10 of an inch of rain recorded at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. Not going to give us a big boost on those numbers. So probably hovering around 3/10 of an inch of rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport in the month of July as a whole. But July hasn't been dry everywhere. It's just a select few areas, and South Bibb County just happens to be one of those areas. If you're up on the border of Glasscock County and Warren County, obviously you already got double, or not quite double, but just shy of double what we normally record in the month of July in terms of rainfall in just a couple of hours yesterday. So let's talk about some of your headlines, your forecast, the pattern change that we have been looking forward to. It's finally settling in as we go into your Wednesday. So below average temperatures Wednesday and Thursday, and then rain chances will remain low for the remainder of the work week. In fact, they are looking really slim for your Saturday and Sunday, which should be good in terms of dry weather for any outdoor plans. But it will result in a warm up, and we are back to the sizzle as we head into next week, really as soon as we get to Saturday. So it's really just Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that are going to be the more pleasant feeling days. By the time we get to Friday, we're going to start to see that temperature increase each and every day. But this right now across our quad view of sky cams is a big reason why our temperatures are going to be cooler today. Overcast skies and a couple of light showers, maybe some pockets of heavier rain have been present in scattered areas this morning. But right now is just a very gloomy image. Downtown Dublin, actually the brightest of these four, where it looks like we have some occasional breaks in the cloud cover, but it is looking very densely overcast over Warner Robins, over the Georgia National Fairgrounds, and up here in downtown Macon, where throughout the morning, once we got past sunrise, we have been getting a good image of some of those lighter showers off in the distance. But take a look at this. This is just a very welcome sight to see. Temperatures around 80 degrees, 81 at the very highest in Cochran and Eastman, but more upper 70s than we see temperatures in the 80s. The last 2 days we've been showing you this temperature map here on the extended forecast. Our numbers have been in the mid 80s, maybe even flirting with the upper 80s. So we'll see how we compare to the rest of the bunch here in the south and the southeast. And pretty similar to our neighbors, only 82 in Charleston, 81 up in Charlotte, 84 down in Jacksonville, 83 in Orlando. It's over to the west, the Mississippi River Valley. They are definitely going to be scorching today, and I'll show you what I mean when we talk about the heat alerts. But 89 right now in Jackson, Mississippi, and that number is probably only going to continue to get higher. I think 89 was the warmest temperature we've seen as of doing this extended forecast here at the 10:30 hour, at least in central Georgia. Jackson's already matching that, and I imagine some local areas over in Mississippi are probably even warmer than that. I'm seeing some patches of some red color trying to build in along the Mississippi River, so it is definitely going to be a very hot one over there. Very thankful that that's not the same forecast that we're having to deal with. But of course, the humidity is still running rampant. Lots of dark green spread out all across central Georgia. We still have this dry patch down in Vidalia because of the sensor that is acting up a little bit. It's just for the dew points. The temperature is actually fairly accurate, but it has resulted in the feels like numbers down in Vidalia just being the same as what the actual temperature is. So we'll ignore that patch right there, just kind of a dark hole right there in the middle of the state of Georgia. Everywhere else is nice and muggy, just like we are here in central Georgia. But we can see drier air up here to the north and the northeast. And that is the drier air that we are going to try to see. Does it push down into maybe north and northeastern portions of our viewing area later on today? Because it would make a world of a difference for the feels like numbers, but also it would really limit your rain chances as well. So I don't have much confidence in this big shade of light green and maybe even some peaks of no color whatsoever pushing down into central Georgia. It does look like it's going to remain farther up into the Carolinas and maybe farther up in the northeastern portion of the state. I do believe portions of North Georgia are actually going to feel some of that drier air throughout today. But maybe not necessarily here, so we'll have to take a look at what those feels like temperatures are. We actually have our first 90 on the map right now, and that's over in Taylor County. In Butler, it does feel like 90 degrees, but everyone else actually knows. Now that I say that, I see the 91 down there in Unadilla and another 91 in McRae. I don't know if we just got a temperature update or it's just been a long morning so far, and I'm just not necessarily getting a good look at these numbers. But how about this? Feels like numbers in the low 80s, the mid 80s, upper 80s, even some areas farther to the north still hovering in the upper 70s. So this is a much more pleasant change of pace because the last 2 days we have seen shades of pink. We have seen triple-digit feels like temperatures, and we are nowhere near that. In fact, we're about 9 degrees shy at the very highest of seeing anything of the way of 100-degree feels like temperatures. So the winds right now, that is continuing to drive our cloud cover and our scattered showers that we still do have present right now from the east-northeast, and they are occasionally gusty. There's some patches of yellow building into this forecast, and we are going to look at a fairly breezy situation to settle in later today. But right now, sustained winds anywhere from about 3 to 5 miles per hour in areas like Thomaston over to Warner Robins, 12-mile-per-hour sustained winds down in Eastman. So we are starting to get an uptick in those winds, plenty of widespread blue color, and we will see some areas of yellow on that map, which is going to indicate some even gustier winds than that blue color. Today overall is just not going to be as bad as the last 3 days, 4 days, really take it all the way back because we haven't had a day that's been forecasted below average in quite some time, and that's mainly due to overcast skies and some scattered rain chances. I did mention some gustier winds out of the east, northeast, about 25 miles per hour at the most throughout today. That's going to be more widespread than just your localized areas within some thunderstorms. We still have a few storm chances today, but not as confident in those storms as we were as of yesterday. 92 for a high temperature. That is definitely a pleasant change of pace. We hit 98 yesterday, 95 the day before, and I believe we were somewhere around 96 or 97 the day before that. So finally dipping down below average. And of course, you'll have the humidity present. That number is going to feel warmer, but it's going to feel a lot more pleasant than what we've had the last couple of days. This heat index graphic, it has been peaking at maybe 107 or 108 as of recently in light of all of our heat advisories. Well, it's only peaking at the mid-90s, 95 at the highest right there at 2 p.m. Looks like maybe we get a shower sometime in the afternoon, tries to cool things down a little bit, but back up to 95 right before we begin our cool down into the evening hours. This would not be bad whatsoever, but of course a couple of areas are probably going to climb above this threshold. I do believe kind of max heat indices are going to be somewhere in the upper 90s today, which is still hot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it is not going to be hot today. It's just going to feel a lot more bearable than the really swampy stuff that we've had as of recently. And maybe even seeing an area or two try to flirt with the 100-degree mark. But overall, you're going to need some clearing in that cloud cover, and you're going to need to dodge the rain in order to see some of those heat indices get that high. But if we hang out in the mid-90s in Macon, no complaints whatsoever. I think we'll see our fair share of widespread upper 90s as well throughout the rest of today. But I was mentioning those heat alerts, and yes, those areas that are already very warm so far, excessive heat warning all the way down the Mississippi River, spanning from areas of Missouri and Illinois all the way down through portions of western Kentucky, western Tennessee, over into eastern Arkansas. Most of the state of Mississippi is in an excessive heat warning, and if they're not, you're still in a heat advisory, so definitely still going to be blistering hot. Western Alabama also finds themselves in that heat advisory color, portions of the toe of the boot in Louisiana and getting up right here to the tongue of the boot up here in northeastern Louisiana. But still very thankful that all of this is to the west of us, not here in central Georgia. The entire state of Georgia actually doesn't even have any heat alerts in play for today. But be very thankful for it and make the most out of it, because it's not going to be long before we're back up to that heat advisory criteria, unfortunately. So here's your live satellite and radar picture. Cloud cover has some occasional breaks in it. Looks like the breaks are farther down to the south. That's probably why we had a bit of a lighter image over in Dublin on the quad view of the sky cams. But overall, it is very overcast, spanning far and wide. And this cluster of showers has been continuing to move from east to west. It started popping up early this morning over in Jefferson County, just one county to the east of Washington County. Fairly widespread across Washington County and Baldwin County. And it looks like it has weakened and started to fizzle out in nature because it doesn't necessarily have that much to work with. Temperatures are pretty cool up there, somewhere in the upper 70s, maybe right there around 80 degrees. It doesn't have the environment to work with like we've had as of recent afternoons with temperatures in the 90s, the mid 90s that feel well above the mid 90s. So we have the moisture content, but we don't necessarily have that surface heating, which is a big component to that rising motion. The warm air rises, the cool air sinks. So without that surface heating, it doesn't have as much of a forcing mechanism to lead to the intensification of this rain. So that's why you're seeing it get weaker and weaker as it continues to push over towards the west. Right now we're seeing a couple scattered sprinkles in Twiggs County, over into Wilkinson County, still portions of Baldwin County holding on to a little bit of rain. Most widespread probably in Jones County right now, and then portions of Monroe County, Jasper County, Butts County, and eventually Lamar County are starting to see some very light showers, more so a drizzle. We did have a couple isolated showers down here just south of I-16 this morning, down in Dodge County, Lawrence County. Those fizzled out very, very quickly. But it does look like we'll have a shot at seeing some rain, whether it's just a light drizzle or anything. It's going to do a good number of at least helping keep some of those temperatures cool for a little while longer up here in the Bibb County area. So here's a look at your surface map. We've been talking about this backdoor front, backdoor front, backdoor front over the last couple of days, and you can see that there is drier air present because, number one, there's not a lot of active weather up here in the portions of the Central Carolinas, but I did show you that humidity levels map, and that's where we were seeing that shade of light green as opposed to the swampy dark green still present here. So the front has passed through. It's just a matter of how far that drier air tries to push down into the state of Georgia. But overall, even still behind this, not necessarily seeing the drier air play too much of a role just yet. We have plenty of cloud cover and plenty of light showers scattered across the entire state of Georgia right now. But this boundary is kind of situated just to the south and the southwest of us. And right over here, I want to turn your attention to the western Gulf, just off the eastern coast of Georgia. Right here, you do see this stationary boundary. And we talk about stationary boundaries because they act as an axis of lift. So there's going to be a lot of lift where this boundary is remaining pretty stagnant right here. This could contribute to the formation of a low pressure center, but right now it's just a bunch of clouds and showers off the Atlantic coast of the United States. We'll touch more on that coming up in just 1 second. So let's go through future view. It looks like we'll go throughout the rest of the afternoon. Some of the clouds will get out of the picture. A lot of the rain will get out of the picture. And eventually we will get some peaks of sunshine during the later portions of the afternoon into the evening. That's probably what's finally going to contribute to at least a warm up into the low 90s, maybe even flirting with the mid 90s in some areas. Holding on to some rain as we go into the evening hours, but that's going to be fairly short-lived because our temperatures will be getting cooler. Shouldn't have to worry about anything because it won't have a lot to work with in the overnight hours. Tuesday afternoon, once again, another afternoon of scattered showers, maybe a storm or two. As we go into the evening hours on Tuesday, looks like most of those push out of the picture. And then we're left with mostly clear weather for your Friday. Forgot to throw a pause point on there, but you just saw as we played it all the way through Friday, only a couple of light shower chances. I've elected for about a 20% chance of rain on Friday, and Saturday and Sunday are trending even better than that once we go to the long range models. First things first, I want to show you what's going on in terms of the winds today. It looks like with the latest update, it's really just going to be associated with some of the showers, and obviously you are going to see your fair share of thunderstorms. That's going to be the same moisture that we're seeing right now fairly widespread in our northernmost counties, continuing to push over to the west, maybe slightly southwest. Well, as we go throughout the next couple of hours, of course, those areas over to the west are a lot warmer because they don't have the cloud cover present. So that's going to lead to the intensification of a couple of storms. And that's why you see some isolated pockets of red, maybe some pink, but still going to be fairly gusty throughout the rest of today. Maybe an occasional gust up to 20, 25 miles per hour, I think at the most. But then after that, Thursday should be a relatively normal day. It's just going to be maybe where some more of the intense weather, the storms, or maybe even just a really heavy shower are going to pop up. That's where some of the gustier winds will be located. So 92 today, 93 tomorrow, and then 94 finally back to average on Friday. Like I said, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are going to be the best feeling days of the next 7 days. But I did show you future view. Those rain chances are looking less impressive day by day as we go throughout today, tomorrow, all the way into Friday. We'll take a look at Saturday and Sunday, and you can probably go ahead and infer what's going to happen on those days. High temperatures increasing back into the mid 90s and the upper 90s by the time we get to Sunday. 98 is that highest temperature that we've hit so far in 2025. We've hit it, I believe, 2 or 3 times possibly, but still that's what we hit yesterday. If we hit 98 on Sunday, then once again we'll have another 98-degree day. But if we're forecasting 98 about 5 days out, then yes, you know that is definitely going to be hot. Take a look at your humidity levels. We may see a steady downtick as we head into the beginning of next week, the end of the weekend into the beginning of next week. So a little bit of a downtick in the humidity is going to mean drier air is present. That's going to really inhibit those rain chances, and that makes sense because we saw that temperature increase on the day-by-day high temperatures. But first things first, let's talk about how it's going to feel outside. And it does look like we go into the later afternoon hours. We finally see some of that red shade building into central Georgia. I wouldn't even doubt it if we see an area pop up a 100 today, because we'll probably have some isolated areas that do get a little bit warmer than the rest of the bunch, but predominantly mid to upper 90s for feels like temperatures today. And then I think it's going to be more so a mix of upper 90s, maybe near the triple digits tomorrow. We're seeing some faint areas of that pink shade throughout Thursday afternoon. I don't quite think the cloud cover is going to be as widespread and dense in nature as what we have today. Now let's go into Friday afternoon, and yes, the pink shade is present all over towards the east, but it does encompass a good portion of central Georgia. You see 99 in Macon, 99 in Dublin is what it feels like. A couple areas around those two locations are more than likely going to have some triple-digit numbers. So we're steadily climbing back up the ladder in terms of turning up the heat once again. But let's take it to the long-range models. Saturday, 7 p.m. All of that rain is over to the west. Keep that in mind once we go into the next graphic after this. But pay attention to this. Almost entirely dry here in the state of Georgia. Not only Saturday, but also Sunday. So that makes sense because those temperatures just continue to climb up, and that's going to be because we don't have a lot in the way of cloud cover. We don't have a lot in the way of rain in order to keep those temperatures at bay just a little bit. So they're going to warm up as warm as they possibly could. Now, as we go into Monday and on into Tuesday, it looks like we do have the return of maybe some slight rain chances, but overall, these are not very impressive what the long-range models are showing for Monday and Tuesday. And then I don't know what's going on down there in the Gulf maybe by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon. But we do need to talk about the Gulf because yesterday I was telling you no chance of formation in the tropics that we had outlined for the next 7 days. Well, as we went into yesterday evening, this area over here off the Atlantic coast, where you do see this yellow X right here, now is forecasted to move once again across the peninsula of Florida into the northern portion of the Gulf. Does this seem familiar? Because this is the same exact thing that we were talking about last week with that potential area of development. It has been outlined right now, and it's still got a ways to go. It's got to cross over land before it can move into that warm Gulf water and try to get its act together. But if it goes a little bit farther down south into the Gulf, because you remember last week's system, it was hovering right around the coastline of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. So it was going over good portions of land, and it didn't necessarily allow it to organize very good. So if this is to go straight over water, it would have a better chance of getting its act together as it makes its way over towards the eastern coast of Texas possibly. This area is very broad right now. It will get trimmed down as we go throughout the near future, but only a 10% chance of developing over the next 2 days. Same 10% chance of developing past that 48-hour window. This was as of the 8 a.m. update. We'll get 4 updates on this potential area of development each day. 2 a.m., 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and then 8 p.m. So only about 4 updates, and we'll continue to keep you posted if it's anything that you need to worry about. But as of right now, it's not going to be anything that you need to worry about because take a look, doing the same exact thing as last week. It is moving away from central Georgia, whatever it is. So we may see our fair share of some outer bands of some semi-tropical moisture creep into our forecast maybe over the next 2 days, and that's really what your rain chances are looking like for Thursday and into Friday. But then after Friday, we kind of get rid of the rain chances, and that correlates with this moving farther and farther away from us. But we'll continue to keep a close eye on it, maybe just see if this does want to get its act together. I would say, even though the chances of development are fairly slim right now, I would have more confidence in this forming our 4th named storm of the year, which would be Dexter, because it does look like it's actually going to go directly over the portion of the northern Gulf that is going to be very, very warm as we are getting into kind of right in the middle of summer. So the oceans have had time in order to start to warm up. And typically we kind of see that peak in ocean temperature as we go into August into early September, which correlates with the peak of hurricane season itself. But the other area that we were monitoring was way down over kind of in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was east of the Caribbean, and we were talking about how dust was really inhibiting the formation of that system, and it slimmed those chances down. I think it had a 20% chance of developing at one time, and then the next day it had absolutely nothing. Well, we were talking about we have to keep a close eye on other bodies of water, whether that's the eastern seaboard of the United States, whether that's the Gulf, whether that's the Caribbean, because these areas don't have as much of that drier air present. It's really just present the farther out towards the east into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that you do go. And once again, that's just kind of putting that into, or making that statement come true that I was referring to yesterday. But this isn't looking to have any implications to our forecast here in central Georgia. You're just going to see a classic tale of rain chances decrease and temperatures increase over the next 7 days. But we will enjoy today, tomorrow, and Friday while we do have them, because we could be back in heat advisory criteria as soon as Saturday. And if we continue to see temperatures like these, 98 on Sunday, 99 on Monday and Tuesday, we had many models calling for at least 100 for Monday and Tuesday. I've seen 101s and 102s thrown out by some models, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that just yet. This is the first time coming into work this morning that I've actually seen the models throw up on 100 for the beginning of the week. So if I come back tomorrow, they're still doing the same thing, I would have more confidence in putting our first 100-degree day up there for maybe Monday or Tuesday. But I was talking about that heat advisory criteria. That could happen as soon as Saturday, but it's all going to be dependent on how much moisture that we have in the forecast. If we do see that steady downtick in the humidity levels, then of course the moisture is not going to necessarily play as much of a role on our feels like numbers. It's not going to feel somewhere about 12, 14, maybe 15 degrees warmer than the actual temperature. It would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe about 7 to 8 degrees warmer, maybe getting to 10 degrees warmer. But it's something we'll have to be on the close lookout for, because temperatures in the upper 90s, and even if we hit the 100-degree mark, that's obviously going to feel warmer with humidity present. So that would definitely at least warrant a heat advisory. We may even have to look out for excessive heat watches or excessive heat warnings. But if we get more confidence in that being issued, then of course we'd issue a weather impact alert, because that's something we don't necessarily see every year. We just saw a bunch of heat advisories last summer, nothing in the way of an excessive heat warning. So that's just really kind of doubling down that the heat is going to be even more brutal than just your general heat advisory. But that's for the foreseeable future. We have a stretch of 3 days to enjoy before we get there, and it's something that obviously we'll continue to keep a close eye on, because obviously when the weather does start to calm down in nature, then that's when we do start to look ahead. But right now you will see the rain chances. Let's talk about those for 1 second, because the rain chances decreasing day by day all the way to Friday, excuse me. Saturday and Sunday, I still have a 20% chance of a shower or a storm, just mainly because these temperatures are above average. We'll still have some humidity present in the forecast. If I continue to see good agreement, especially once future view extends out into Saturday this time tomorrow, then I will probably throw a downtick in those rain chances, because what I saw in the long range models is really hinting at a 0% chance of rain Saturday and Sunday. Both of those days look predominantly dry, which would be great for outdoor plans, but of course it's going to be blistering hot, so you're going to want to make sure that you take care of yourself. And this time of year, you can never rule out the possibility of just a pop-up shower or a pop-up storm. So if you do see rain chances Saturday and Sunday, and we're still not seeing a lot of agreement that anything's going to pop up, you'll probably elect to see us at least have a 10% on there, just because we like to cover the bases, and we know that even some days that you don't have rain forecasted, we can have rain pop up into the picture if we're still hot and we're still humid. But let's just focus on a nice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Yes, I know today's rather gloomy, but at least the temperatures are feeling a lot more bearable for you to get anything done outdoors or just really enjoy yourself outdoors. So it's a little bit gloomy. The cloud cover should break apart a little bit later in the day, and of course temperatures will warm up for a little bit, but then they're going to encounter that period of time each and every day where we start to get to sunset, they start to cool down, and then these temperatures aren't going to be allowed to warm up as much as they could during days like we've had the last couple of days. But a 40% chance of a shower or storm throughout today. I think if you do see anything in the way of the storm, it's going to be more so into the afternoon hours, probably around 5 or 6 o'clock. We'll see most of that moisture move out of the picture. And then we'll lead the way into a relatively clear night. Still the chance of a shower or storm Thursday and even Friday, even though the rain chances didn't look too impressive. But as we go into next week, the big story will be monitoring the heat and just how warm we're going to get in terms of those feels like numbers. So we'll keep a very, very close eye on that. So thanks for tuning in to your extended forecast. I hope you make the most out of this relatively cool stretch, in air quotes. Still going to be hot, like I said, but it's a lot better than what we've had with 3 straight days in a heat advisory. But we'll check back in tomorrow at 10:30 for an update on some of that incoming heat.